Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip,
And I'm CJ.
and it is Monday in the Rib, and we
And
got a lot.
happy Star Trek Day.
We got a lot to talk about. 1 week and a wake up to the primary.
Yep.
Uh, 1 week and a wake up. Uh, so, like everybody, get out the vote. So let's get there. We got a lot to talk about. The Cougs has been added again. With the. I heard he lost the bet.
Yes, he did.
Like,
Yay.
you want to
Yay.
fill it?
But he hasn't written the check yet. And I don't think he
Yeah,
will.
he won't. Now, listen. You know him. He is going to renege on that like he's reneged on everything. But why don't you give everybody the particulars? A lot of people may have forgotten.
Carlos had said during the fixed debate, which I'm going to refer to it as, that $1.5 million was given towards boxing. Now, $1.5 million was given towards boxing, yes. Laura Washington sponsored it. The city council approved it. And it went through. But they didn't list it as boxing. They listed it as youth initiatives. So, using the semantics, which Paul's very good at doing, Carlos couldn't find it in the ARPA funds. Because it's not listed as boxing, it's listed as youth initiatives.
Uh-huh.
And by the way, I remember when Laura Washington, Sampson, whatever, sponsored that gym.
Oh, I remember that. I remember that vividly because she brought down some of the people from the boxing gym and everything else, and like they always
weren't
do.
even from Fall River. They were from West Point and Dartmouth.
Yeah, well, yeah, but here we go again. Look, nobody is more in favor of youth initiatives than I am. But listen, PAL Nero Farias used to do that basically for free. At the Armory, we had a comprehensive bunch of programs down there. We had judo, and they had judo down there. They had actually my
basketball. They had everything.
My son trained with actually the guys who taught the judo down there. I know one of them, and but we had a whole bunch of youth initiatives, and they let it die. So this is the thing. Oh, we got to do youth, get them off the wall. Number one, it doesn't cure a problem, but there's nothing better than keeping them engaging in something. If you save one, it's worth it. But the thing is, it's not going to cure the problem. To get back to what we talked about on the other show, but he's not going to pay the bill. He's not going to pay the debt. You know that he's going to be the piker that he always is, and everything he says is kind of like a half truth because he made that bet. If you can show me, and now you know what he's going to say. Paul,
Yep.
little. He's going to say, "Oh, well, it didn't all go there. There were other youth initiatives that it went to, and blah blah." Try to prove it. Well, nobody can prove anything because you found it. But the thing is, Paul, we didn't even find out about. We don't find out about anything that happens in this city, whether it's criminal actions or anything. It's dead silence.
Now, don't you find it interesting though? For an unprepared candidate to show up with the ARPA funding book in hand, and then a question about ARPA funds was asked. This is what tells me that Mike Sylvia is corrupt. He's protecting his information source from the city. He gave those questions to Paul because you and I remember. He wasn't going to do the debate unless he got the questions from us. And we said, here's the finger. Choose one.
Yeah. Well, listen, Paul can't remember anything he said like 2 days ago,
Right.
and if he, so, but he just coincidentally had opera data. Yeah, look, as I said, even if that may, is not true, which I believe uh, it is very, very suspect and lends credence to being skeptical when the only taped interview was with Coogan.
Right.
You can say what you want, but we've seen what they do. We saw what CBS did to the DHS secretary, Kristi Noem, when they edited her interview to make her look bad because she's a Republican and a conservative. And we saw what they did with Kamala Harris to completely eliminate some of her answers, and then patch answers in to make her look good, which is an impossible task because even with that she looked ridiculous. But this is the thing, and Paul he's the master of amnesia. I'm sure Paul doesn't remember that he said that the Durfee debt would be paid. I'm sure he's going to forget, that he promised a tax increase. We have government in this city by crisis. We have government by crisis. Now we had I was told that one of the incidents with those lunatics on these dirt bikes and ATVs, somebody was injured. Now, 800. So Paul Coogan, the people who say great leadership where? We had 800 complaints on the rail trail before something got done. How many years has this been going on? How many years have we been talking about this on a show under the Coogan administration? A few times I've mentioned it, going up and down Eastern Avenue when they were on the opposite lane, or and then coming back they were in the other lane, and I've been in the same lane as them. They're a hazard. What did Providence do? Providence rounded them up, crushed their bikes, did what they had to do. What do we get? Oh, we have an uptick during this time of the year. What in the hell? Oh yeah, that was that wasn't money.
I remember that.
the grand poobah of something or other, and Paul gave him a commendation, and they found out that the guy was a total fake. Listen, Paul, like I said, he's the worst mayor I've ever seen. I'm sorry, and it's not. I'm not saying that because
it's Paul Coogan.
Because there's an election. He is. The man is a total failure as a leader. He's never led anything in his life. He's a buffoon. He's a dummy. I'm sorry. He is not the sharpest knife in a drawer. I mean, he's not even the sharpest butter knife in the drawer. And this is the thing. And everything he does is covered up. Now, what did he come out and say after there was an injury? Well, get the police chief to get up there and say what Fall River is going to do about this. Rail trail, now they got some people down there on a rail trail temporarily. And then now we have, and the thing is, and now we have the situation with the firefighters supposedly making an agreement that was kept under wraps until it finally broke, I guess, on local media, which to me, there's still a lot of questions. I mean, I know that Jason Burns made a statement. It was kind of a general statement, but his statement was that the entire department will not be brought up to the NFPA standard, which means that they're not at the NFPA standard. Let me make it perfectly clear. If you are not at the NFPA 1710 standard, you are not up to the standard. If 1/4 of the department is not at it, you're not at it. You're either at the standard or you're not at the standard. So let me explain something, because I got something on the screen over here. Okay. Let me explain something to these people, to you, because a lot of you people were not involved in firefighting, you know, and we're not professional firefighters, as I was for 3.5 years. And from what the information that we have gotten only secondhand, they're going to do it with overtime. There's going to be no increase in manpower. That's not meeting the standard. They settled because they're going to make money. Well, if that's the case, and I know that the president said something about the industry standard. I don't know what kind of buzzword that's become, but that is not an industry standard. We have industry standards for construction. But you know what else we have? OSHA standards for safety. You've heard of those, haven't you, CJ?
Yes, I have.
Okay. So OSHA standards are safety standards. The NFPA 1710 is not an industry standard for how to generally run a construction site or a fire department. It is a safety standard. Makes it safer for the firefighters when they're fully manned. Makes it far safer for the general public. If you get there with a completely manned truck, life safety is far better, and it's proven statistically. So let me give you a little history lesson. And look at, they're going to do what they got to do. I would have never made that agreement. That's my personal thing. When I was the president, I would make an agreement like that. When we went from 300 guys, when I got on the fire department, back in the days that we rode dinosaurs to the fires, we had 300 men on the job. We had 4 or 5 men on every truck. And in non-prime time, in prime time, we had 4 most of the time. Sometimes 5. When I went to a fire, we had plenty of help. We could we could do what needed to be done at a fire immediately with less response of apparatus because the men were there. If you only got 3 people on a truck and you need 15 people to do what you need to do at a fire, as far as strategically has to be done, tactically and strategically, you need 5 trucks. That's virtually half the city. So you're leaving that other half where they come from bare ass. In the old days, 4 men on a truck, do the math. 2 pumps in a ladder truck, you're already at 12. You got the chief and the aide, 14, and you got the heavy rescue that always runs with 3 men. Okay. So there you go. We were far more efficient. It was far safer for the firefighters and the public. And Louis Shea did that. He dropped the manpower down from 300 to 255, where it stayed virtually for the rest of my time. And I fought it tooth and nail. And he gave overtime out. I didn't care about the overtime. Yeah, a lot of guys want to make the overtime. That's fine. But we needed the manpower. I went in front of the council. I wanted the 1710 standard, and it got voted down 5-4, and Joe Camaro was one of those votes, negative votes. They lied during that presentation like they always do. They brought in false information, which was proven later on, and they still didn't reverse it. And that was decades ago. But you can't settle for a half a loaf. This is not a standard, industry standard. This is a safety standard like OSHA. OSHA doesn't give a shit what your industry standard says. If you're not operating safely on a job site, you're going to be in trouble. We are not operating under a safety standard properly. This is not fixing the problem. This is making some people overtime. And what's going to happen is going to happen exactly what happened when Shea dropped it from 300 to 255. Let's do ballpark, because I can't remember what we made years ago, but we weren't making anywhere near what they're making now. But let's say a firefighter was making $100 a week, or even $200 a week. Who gives a shit? Okay, $100 a week, and now you used all, you put them all in on overtime, so they're getting time and a half, but they're not paying the benefits and stuff. So that was their brilliant idea. But I also knew the way they operate. Yeah, it worked for a year or two. And then we got pay raises, because you get a pay raise every 3 years. Contracts run. Pay raises go in. So now every time you get a pay raise, the overtime budget has to be expanded, because your overtime is going to cost you more. They're not making $100 a week anymore. Now they're making $300 a week. So you need an overtime budget that's 3 times larger than it was when you started this harebrained idea. And I predicted it before it happened. And what happened then? The city was broke. Oh, we can't afford 3 times the size of that thing. So guess what? They stopped manning the trucks with overtime. And they ran undermanned again, and it's still happening. And I bitched about it the whole time I was there, and they never fixed it. They didn't put bells on the tanks until Frank Andeas died at 555 Middle Street, because it was too expensive to put a warning bell. So he got trapped in a building, ran out of air, and died without a warning bell. They still didn't put warning bells on. With a firefighter dying and 8 of them going to the hospital at that fire. A couple of months later, somebody died up around Boston. Then the legislature finally passed a law, because up there, they're rich. They don't care. They passed a law. They had to put the warning bells on the tanks. Now we have a catastrophic fire in Fall River. And now what are we going to do again? We're going to try to pretend we're going to fix it. They fixed the bells because they have to. They're not fixing it unless the entire department's up to the standard. If it's not up to the standard, it's not up to the standard. This isn't, well, we get 50% credit. No. The fire happens in a district that the trucks aren't manned completely. First arriving apparatus does not have the manpower to have their maximum efficiency. Case closed. Over. That's it. That's it. So Paul is now going to run around saying, oh, I fixed the problem after that. No, you didn't. You exacerbated the problem. Because now you're trying to con everybody, but I'm not going to let you. Because that's not a fix. Because I don't care if you're going to fill it with overtime for now. It's only temporary. Because the next time you give them pay raises, 3 pay raises down the road, nobody will be able to afford the overtime budget. And the con was the same thing. Oh, we can't afford the benefits. Well, guess what? 3 contracts down the road, the overtime cost a lot more than the benefits did. I mean, they're all full of crap. And I'm not speaking at theoreticals here. I'm giving you facts. Again, Coogan is telling you a half-truth, a lie. And then I saw today on the news, they had Diamond's going to start. This is their last year in the old school. We never even got asked. We didn't even have, as they say in Full Metal Jacket, we didn't even get a reach around. So, that's the thing. I mean, this is Coogan. Just keep spending money, over 600 grand in pay raises. But now we're talking about increases, $75 on this and that. This guy's the worst mayor in history. He doesn't care about the people, never did care about the people. And he admitted it at the debate, basically. Oh, we got people coming in from Newport, blah, blah, even though they're not really, they're just here temporarily. He wants to replace everybody in Fall River, and you're not going to do that. I'm sorry. Everybody from Newton and Wellesley isn't going to come down here to live on County Street.
And he said that people coming from Newport were paying taxes. They were paying for excise taxes and whatnot. But guess what? They don't have to register their cars here.
Isn't he the same guy that contradicted himself by saying, I walk around and see all these out-of-state plates?
Yes, he did.
Oh, Jesus. How come? Paul forgot what he said to make himself look like the liar that he is.
He conveniently forgets what he said.
Yeah. All the outside. And what is the law? Isn't it like 30 days if you move into a state, you've got to transfer your plate?
Unless you're active duty military personnel.
Yeah, unless you're active duty personnel. And if you're not registered in the state, you're not paying excise tax. And those people are active duty military personnel. Listen, everything he says is at best not even a half truth. It's like an eighth of a truth. And everything else is a lie. I mean, this guy is he's destroyed the city. And people, all they do is want to talk about BS. I drove down to the Duval corridor yesterday. It was a Sunday. I know I don't go down there unless it's a weekend. I was coming back from Somerset. And I saw all those beautiful $7 million lights. The place still looks like Fallujah down there. But we got all the lights all lined up. I just can't wait for those $7 million benches to be installed because they did the people a lot of good. Remember, $87 million worth of money, and what did he give it to? $1.5 million for. Hey, look, I love boxing, but I also was very friendly with Nero Farias. Very friendly with Nero. I used to go down to PAL all the time and watch those kids fight, get the gloves and stuff like that. But it's like these guys did it for free. People down at the Armory were paid by CD Rec, but we had a great program down there. All of a sudden, we got to give people millions of dollars for private businesses, and they're not even in the city. I mean, this guy is just, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, this is what you get when you take a boob and stick him in there, and he's like Biden. All he is a puppet. Because, I mean, did you ever see that movie with Peter Sellers about he was a gardener? And the guy, he was like a blithering idiot, but everybody thought he was a genius. Because he made a couple of statements. I forgot the name of the movie, but maybe Stevie B is watching. He'll look it up for us. But it was like they created this aura that this guy was a great intellect, but he wasn't. And I mean, look, Paul is just we don't know anything that happens in Fall River. Anything. Now, like I said, I don't know that much about what happened with the ATVs. I know that nothing's happened since Paul's been mayor, and we've had the problem ever since Paul's been mayor, and it started when Paul was the mayor fundamentally in earnest. I know that, we don't have any information about any kind of lawsuit. They categorically refuse to give us any information, how many suits, how much money those suits are filed for. They even refuse to give the council, and the council allowed them to do that. I would have defunded the entire law department. If Runaway Rumsey would have come before me on a council and said, I'm not telling you, I would have said, well, you're not getting paid. You're not going to get paid. I'm the fiduciary for the city. We have to appropriate the money to pay these lawsuits. I want to know what the hell lawsuits we got. You are bound by the Constitution of this state to be answerable to the people and their representatives at all times. You don't want to tell us? You don't get paid. School department, same thing. Don't tell you anything. Malone, the head of security, all the other machinations over there. What happens? Nothing. I mean, listen, a week and a wake up, and we say a wake up because that's the day you're going home. Well, this is a wake up. You got to wake up, like Jeff said. It's, in 1 week and one wake up. When you wake up that day, wake up and get to yeah, the donut shop downtown. Yeah. Listen, this city is dying. I mean, it's already.
Morte Fall River. Morte Fall River.
That's right. You put it in a weekend flush.
That's right. Fall River's dead. Morte Fall
Your
River.
weekend flush. Yeah, you had a couple of good ones in there, as usual. You get starting to be, the first one, historically, the claims of consensus have been the first refuge of scoundrels. It's a way to avoid debate by claiming the matter is already settled.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They settle the matter in their mind. And the thing is that what is settled is Paul's record. I mean, that is not debatable, non-debatable. And then the one at the end I like too. And that's from Charlie Kirk, who I watch a lot. He runs that thing in the colleges, trying to save the minds of these college students that have been poisoned by these leftist lunatics that have no, he runs a conservative organization in the colleges. And one of the most horrifying and surprising evolutions we have witnessed among our widespread campus network is the rapid movement away from tolerating opposing ideas and respectful debate to the deployment of obscene bully tactics from the left. And that's exactly what they do. They will burn your business down. And
you say Paul Coogan?
It's a peaceful riot. And speaking of that, did anybody find out we had an ice rate? We had ice in Fall River today?
They were in my neighborhood. They were in my neighborhood.
Well, at least the federal government's doing something right. So, and of course, our state, we got to deal with Healy and Wu, but
everybody should know that.
This has been like North Korea for 6 years.
Okay with it. It's letting the feds come into the city. That's what all the people that are all the progressives know from the
Well, look, we can't sustain anything. Paul Coogan is dressing up the Vol corridor for his friends who are going to get out-of-towners to come here and get federally subsidized or state subsidized, while the people of Fall River have to just
pay the bill. We're the ones that are going to have to pay the bill.
Get murdered.
Right.
We've seen, the numbers don't lie. Numbers do not lie. Our per capita income has virtually been stagnant for the 6 years he's been in office. And that's even a false flag. The fact that it's one of the lowest in the states is not the problem. The problem is that is looking even worse, because the problem is a lot of the people in this city have elevated the household income. It's still low, but all the pay raises he gave out artificially inflate that number and kept it a little higher than normal. Actually, I think if you took out the public employment agency that Paul Coogan has created in the city of Fall River, that I think those numbers would be lower than they were 10 years ago.
You know what I think is interesting? You mentioned that. we've witnessed for some time the loss of services in the city. Do you realize that we've lost our public health nurses? Do the people of Fall River know that? We used to have public health nurses that went out to homes to give tuberculosis medications. We don't have them anymore because the visiting nurses can now do it. I agree. But public health nurses used to do more than just go out to people's homes. Okay? So now what we've done is we've gotten rid of the public health nurses and we're now having EMS do that, which the VNA should be doing. Or am I missing something? Please help me. I don't know.
Well, listen, now you just gave the EMS another idea to run a private business on the side.
Yeah.
So, but Jeff, that thing is, of course, it's reprehensible. You got these nitwits. This is the problem. They're brain damaged. You can't argue with a moron. So you know what should happen? If that guy gets murdered by an illegal immigrant, I guess you're going to have to let him go because he's going to be like the mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina. Did you hear about her, CJ? There was a Ukrainian woman, a refugee from the Ukrainian war. Yeah, that's right, Linda. They should be responding to emergency, not doing any kind of thing that's non-emergency. That's why it's called EMS. E is for emergency, and M is for medical, emergency medicine. And CJ can tell you that because he's a doctor nurse. So the difference between emergency medicine and regular medicine. So it's not like non-life-threatening stuff they're doing. That so they can make more money to give for them to expand their own, as they quoted, their words, not mine, their business. But the mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, wants the individual who stabbed that woman in the neck not to go to jail, not to be prosecuted, because she said he has a mental health issue. Well, he also had 14 other convictions. He's been let out of jail, I don't care what kind of issue he's got. He's a menace to the public. They should throw her ass in jail right alongside of him. Maybe she'll get stabbed. You think she'll feel safe if she's in the cell next to him? 14 times. And this guy's still out on the street. Now, he's not an illegal, I don't think, but it's irrelevant. This is what the wokies do with crime. Just like Massachusetts. They bury statistics, they manipulate statistics. New York, if you don't get hit by a bullet, they don't even mention the gun. You got to have somebody hit. The guy misses you 8 times. Guy's trying to kill you, shoot you 8 times. They don't.
Wasn't that Paul's response?
Yeah.
Didn't Paul say,
"Oh yeah,
bullets in your house"?
Yeah. Well, he said there's not a bullet in every house in the city, so your bullet doesn't count. That's
Right,
even
exactly.
worse. It's like, okay, they even hit something in that case. But yeah, this is what we got, people. And if you don't get out a week and a day from today, it's going to continue.
And if you have a mail-in ballot, okay, I'm going to tell you now, unless you get it into the mail tomorrow, there is no guarantee that your vote will count.
That's right.
No guarantee. And you cannot take that ballot to the polls. You can't do it. I received a text message from somebody wanting us to discuss Morte Fall River.
Morte Viva Fall River?
Yep. Morte Fall River. Viva Fall River is no more. Although, according to Patty Rigo, it's a movement. They don't know what they're going to do with it, but I want to know what they did with all the money. That was TDI money, Transitional Development Initiative, which was supposed to be for gateway cities, which we're one of, to improve their downtown business district. Do you see any improvement in downtown Fall River? No, actually, I see more businesses closing. Okay? And they're using that same program for up to Flint. Do you see any improvement up there? No, I don't.
Even the little painted sidewalk is beginning to fade now.
Exactly.
Listen,
and here's the
DJ.
thing. Here's what Viva Fall River has. They have 2 murals in the city. One on the back of Tony Cadero's building downtown. Who's going to maintain it? There's no money. The state pulled its funding, and they pissed away $750,000 of ARPA funds. And what do they have to show for it? Nothing. Nothing. I want Patty Rigo to show me one thing that Viva Fall River did that brought the city tax dollars and money. Because they want a tourism director. Linda's been wanting one for years. Patty Rigo said, the money's gone. I'm out of here. She's going somewhere else.
Yeah,
obviously another political tick.
Well, this is what the politicians do. People say, well, we talk about national news because national news shows you it's the big daddy of what happens on the local and state levels. Now, we saw what happened when they doged these companies and they saw these people getting money to promote things. These promotions never work. Ever, 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 ever. I was going through the papers the other day. Remember they were going to sell signs in City Hall? Remember they were going to put billboards in City Hall or something like that? They were going to do all these harebrained ideas. We've been talking about tourism forever, even though we're between the 2 biggest tourist attractions. There's a way to do it. Listen, nothing works. All these things is giving their friends money because there's never the thing that's missing always is accountability. Now, if you hire somebody in the private sector to do something for you, you hire a marketing guy, and all of a sudden he's been in there for 6 months and you guys are not selling anything. You think he's going to stay employed? You're going to be looking for another marketing director and another marketing strategy, because if you don't start selling shit, you're going to go out of business. Not here. Paul Coogan's never going to go out of business. $600,000 for pay raises, $40,000 pay raise here, $20,000, $15,000. Who cares? Give them some more. Rent another building, $2 million, $1.25 million. Who cares? What are we going to do? Raise taxes? Now we're going to go jump up the stormwater fee, $75 per unit. Well,
Carlos brought up, and Paul did not decline. He did not say, I don't know where you got that. He did not say that's not going to happen.
That's right.
He let it go past, which means cha-ching
is lying. Silence is acquiescence. Acquiescence means to agree by your silence. He agreed it's going to go. Listen, I don't care if he said it wasn't going to happen. He's a pathological liar. We all know that. He's a pathological liar. So what's going to happen is, if he gets in again, the city's going to be, now that Diamond's going to count, we're going to be in big trouble. It's going to be the $75. It's going to be the purple bags. It's going to be a trash pickup fee. It's going to be everything. They're going to nail us to the cross. And Haley's going to be right in here with them if she gets reelected, because she's already talking about waiving 2.5. The city can just decide to waive 2.5 on their own. No, 2.5 was passed to protect the taxpayer.
Big deal. The residents passed to roll the sales tax back to 5%. As a matter of fact, that question is coming up again next year. Okay, and they ignored it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what they do. Well, they ignore everything that people want. And why? This dumb state. They don't go to vote and throw these idiots out of office.
Because it's a democratic state.
That's right. They're all delusionary, and they believe, no ice in my city. Well, yeah, no ice. No, well, let your daughter get raped, or like Jocelyn and Gary or someplace. Nobody gives a damn. Number one, they're not supposed to be here, and they're driving your wages down. You people are morons. I'm sorry. I'm sick and tired of
trying to apologize.
No, I'm sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of trying to. As a psychiatrist said, he said, listen, it's pointless to argue with them because they are delusionary, and you can't explain anything to them. They need psychological attention, and that's what they need. When the mayor of a city like Charlotte, North Carolina, and I've been in Charlotte, I was stationed at Fort Bragg, so I know North Carolina pretty well. Nice city. When she says that somebody who stabs a woman, a young woman, a refugee from a war, she got out of Ukraine without getting killed, and she gets killed on a subway in the United States. If that doesn't say it all about why we should not have illegals in this country and why we should be tough on crime. 14 charges before this. And he's riding on a subway to stab a refugee. That is just beyond human comprehension, how sick these people have got to be. Michelle Wu is protecting criminals, rapists, and she doesn't care. They're nuts. They are crazy. They are batshit crazy. I mean, it makes no sense. You're going to tell people that it's okay for them to be here when they're violating the first act they ever had when they entered the United States was to violate its law. I'm sorry. You people are nuts. You find all these, they love to virtue signal. Oh, I want the rights for the MS-13 guy. They got due process. They shouldn't have anything. You come in here, you're illegal, you're out. There's no reason for due process. You're not from here. You didn't enter legally. You didn't follow the process. You're gone. Czechoslovakia, they just walk you out. You walk into Czechoslovakia and you're illegal. They bring you in. They fingerprint you. They take your picture. Then they walk you back to the gate and they say, get out. Next time you come back in, you're going to go to jail or get shot. They don't have an immigration problem. So we got a 20 million person immigration problem because of brain dead Biden. And but I mean, this state and these states like this, and I love it. He's picking on blue states and he's picking on, well, that's where all the high crime is. It's not Trump's fault that Baltimore has been run by black politicians for the last basically 75 to 100 years. And it's one of the crime capitals of the country. Look at Chicago. Black mayor. Previously a black mayor. South side of Chicago is a war zone, but they don't care. The black people are complaining in Chicago. The black people want a safe city. Washington, D.C., same thing. It's the rich white liberals that live in a nice cloistered environment. They go back to their thing and hire a security guard. Now, and this is the thing. These people are nuts. They virtue signal and they don't care because it doesn't affect them. I said this years ago when we were arguing over with Teddy Kennedy about the school busing issue they had in Boston, and I said, Teddy Kennedy would have a completely different idea if you stuck him in a 3-decker in Fall River and had. That's right, NIMBY, Annalise. That's right, NIMBY, not my backyard. But if they stuck him in a 3-decker and on the first floor they had a couple of hookers, he lived on a 3rd-floor attic apartment. On a 2nd floor, he had a couple of drug dealers, and across the hall from him in the attic apartment, he had a pedophile. And then give him the same amount you got to live on to go get his groceries. Give him that. Let him get a job, become successful, and then move to another community where they got good schools and it's safer, and then force his children to be bused back to the shithole you just left. He'd have a different opinion because he could send his kids to Switzerland to school. They all went to private schools. These people, they're nuts, and they are not in my backyard. Look how long they lasted in Martha's Vineyard. What did they last? 35 seconds. There was an emergency call to the National Guard. Their ass came up. They got off they hit the island, and within seconds, they were already panicking. How are we going to get them out of here? 24 hours they were gone. They stuck them in some auditorium. They wouldn't put them in a hotel. They put them in your hotels. They'll put them up at the airport. They'll put them in Somerset. They'll put illegals in Dartmouth at the motels. And they are there. They were there. They'll stick them in Fall River, and they'll stick them in a market rate housing. They won't put them in their yard, Martha's Vineyard, and that was the off season. They had more empty hotel rooms than you could shake a stick at. You think they stuck them in a hotel in Martha's Vineyard? Not in this lifetime. They got stuck in some auditorium, and the next morning they're on a bus right out of
a church basement. They got stuck in a church basement.
Church basement, yeah. And they were lucky they didn't put them out. You know, what they should have done is they should have all marched down to Obama's front lawn and pitched some tents. Because his property's big enough, they could have all, had a party on his lawn. You're not getting near there. Try to get on a Kennedy compound. Not in my backyard. They live a different world. They come in there, they put on they get their little signs, and they chant and they sing, and then they go back to their cloistered little environment. These people are full of shit. I'm sorry. There's no way they're nuts, and they don't live in a real world. It's like these millionaire movie actors. Oh, the other one that moved I moved out of the country. You were already living out of the country, you bozo. You were living in Spain. So it's like, and then the other one, Rosie. Now she hates America, but she can't stop talking about it. Just go wreck Ireland. There's a nice video of Conor McGregor crucifying her, by the way. But you can't air that on regular TV. Yeah, and you know what it's disrespectful to? Swampscott's, Swampscott, Marblehead, that's pretty ritzy up there. You're right, Annalise. You're right, Al. You know who it's disrespectful to? To our ancestors. To the ones who came here and went through Ellis Island. Came here legally, went through Ellis Island, came here, took all the crap jobs, built a life in America by working hard, working for peanuts, got their kids a little bit better lot in life, and then the next generation got a better lot in life, maybe got them to college. That's still pretty ritzy. I know a few people from Marblehead and Swampscott, but that's the thing. It is disrespectful to our people, to the people who came here legally, who got the crap jobs. Years ago, when a other moron in Chicago was it Chicago that he went nuts and started yelling about the slaves and the immigrants built this country. No, they didn't. The slaves and the Indians. Oh, the slaves and the Native Americans built this country. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. You know who built this country? The Irish and the Chinese. Who built the Transcontinental Railroad?
The Chinese.
From the west toward the east, they were working, and the Irish immigrants. And you know what they suffered? The Irish immigrants in Boston, there were signs on bars: no dogs or Irishmen allowed.
That's right.
That's what every ethnic group suffered when they first came here. And the Chinese was worse. They were killing Chinese people.
Yep.
They had groups of anti-Chinese that killed people, that killed a lot of Chinese workers. But they came over here and they were basically slaves working on those things. They built this country. And then it was the Irish. And you know, first it was the Irish and the Chinese, then the Italians came over, then the Portuguese. Whatever ethnic group came over, they didn't come over because they were rich and living like kings in their country. They came over here because this country you could make a living. My paternal grandfather came here from the Azores. Went to Augusta, Maine. Not too many Portuguese in Augusta, Maine in the early 1900s. And you know what the job he got? Driving a honey wagon with a horse. You know what the honey wagon was? The swill truck. He picked up swill and was happy to have a job.
That's it.
That's who they're disrespecting. My grandfather, on both sides, because they came over and got the shit jobs, like the Irish got the shit jobs and the Italians got the shit jobs, and everybody came over, but they took the shit jobs and they worked their asses off, scraped some money up, and tried to make their kids' lives better.
How long did we work in Fall River for piecework? Piecework. Right. Remember piecework?
Yeah. Well, my mother was born here and went back to Lebanon as an infant, came back at 13 years old, went to school for 1 year, and at 14, she started working at Shelburne Shirt for 12 cents an hour. For 12 cents an hour. And she worked in a mill for 55 years. 25 years at the Shelburne Shirt and 30 years at Stella Ann Frock, which was in the same mill complex. That was on Quikasham Street. Yeah. You know, none of our parents, mostly, they came here because they were just regular people and they couldn't get work. They couldn't live a dream over there. You couldn't get rich in Europe unless you were born rich.
That's right.
They came to America to get their, not for themselves, but for their families, to give their children and their grandchildren a better life. And this is what pisses me off so much. This is what pisses me off so much about these people, and Alphonse is right. These people disrespect us. The people whose parents and grandparents or great-grandparents came to this country, worked for crap. That's the way it was. My mother didn't have a choice. She came back from Lebanon, and you know she learned English. She learned English anyway when she went over there because their parents had lived here before. But she didn't come back till she was 13 years old, and she got to go to school for 1 year just so she could polish up her English, and they stuck her in a mill on piecework. Yep. And that was it. And they had a 15-minute lunch hour.
And remember, all these mills that are becoming market rate housing, but nobody could make one of these mills a museum to the tyranny and slave labor that these mills created.
Yep.
When you take a 6-year-old boy and chain him to a loom,
That's it.
okay?
They did it.
And if they got injured, you throw them out on the street.
Well, that my favorite book, The Untold Story of Labor, The Labor's Untold Story. That's one of the biggest quotes there. When one of the mill owners was asked about that, and he said, "I treat my workers like I treat my machines. I work them till they break down, and I cast them into the street.
That's
When
it.
they couldn't work anymore, they just threw them out the front door. There was no welfare. There was no nothing." And this is the thing. And thank you, Alphonse, for saying it and putting it that way.
Yep.
So they're saying they disrespect us because our relatives, our forefathers came here with nothing. When they got to Ellis Island, most of them didn't have 2 nickels to rub together.
That's it. That's it. Well, I want to thank you all for watching. It's been a great show. And again, we've exposed another failure of the Coogan administration. Morte Fall River. Morte Fall River. Remember that. Remember, stay safe, stay angry, and hold your politicians accountable. And remember, we'll see you on Wednesday. Have a great day. And tomorrow's a city council meeting.